Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video.
I, female, 34, have always been treated as the golden child of the family, leading to a lot of resentment from my sister Brittany, female, 33. I couldn't control this as a kid and indulged in it while I was growing up, and I fully acknowledge that I used to be a bit of a bully earlier. However, I realized how unfair this was to Brittany due to an incident in our teens. My sister had recently won an inter-district art competition and had come home to tell the family. And I'd also won our state volleyball championship on the same day. The reaction to each of our achievements was so different that I was basically kicked out of my complacency and felt like shit. Like, I got a whole party to celebrate and Brittany got nothing. After that day, I always tried to call out my parents for their favoritism and also worked harder to include Brittany. I naturally also stopped gloating about my achievements over hers because I realized that mine weren't better than Brittany's. It's just that my parents saw mine differently and that gave me a big ego. Making amends didn't really do enough for Brittany though, and she moved out as soon as she could. To be honest, I get why she did this because her childhood was obviously really toxic, and I contributed to that. Playing nice after my own epiphany wasn't enough to fix things. However, I made it very clear when she left I was aware of the hurt I had caused her, and whenever she felt ready, we could form a bond. I graduated college with a degree in biology and married my husband Mark, male, 38. My parents had also taken this time to mature and realize how badly their favoritism had hurt Brittany, and tried to make amends. She accepted their apologies, and the family dynamic is better now, except for one thing. My sis never hesitates to insult me or my parents for the mistakes of our past, with pointed jibes. She found her own way as an independent digital artist and was making a lot more money than me when I started out. And she used to say things like, "I wonder if mom and dad celebrate your empty bank account more than mine now. Ha ha." Well, she'd always play it off as a joke. I was genuinely hurt by those comments. I didn't really say anything about it, though, because some part of me felt like I deserved it. Mom and Dad also dealt with very similar behavior. Over the last 2 years or so, Brittany and I kind of had a role reversal in our fortunes, though. She went through a bout of anxiety and depression and ended up facing a huge creative block. Due to that, all of her contracts and projects ran dry, and she's basically jobless now. In fact, last year she moved back in with mom and dad to try and cut costs while trying to get her footing. I, on the other hand, switched from independent research to working as an environmental analyst in a big company, and my husband also got a few promotions in his field. Due to that, we've recently bought our first house and have a considerable chunk of savings for the future. Brittany's situation is really tough, and the whole family is trying to help her through this. She accepted our help, but there were still a few problems yet to be ironed out. Mom and Dad also rant to me that my sister is a bit mean during conversation and often turns every conversation towards the way she was treated as a child. Like something as small as, "Hey, Brittany, it was your turn to take out the trash," could set her off on a rant about all the hurt we had piled on her. We didn't call her out on this, again burdened by our terrible behavior in the past. I guess all three of us are too scared to call her out because some part of us feels like we deserved it. About 3 months ago, Mark's great uncle passed away and left behind a sizable family fortune for all of his children and relatives. Mark himself was always well off, but this great uncle of his was on another level. He left Mark a huge amount of money in his will, and my husband, sensible man that he is, decided to buy a bunch of property as a long-term investment. We bought one apartment in the city and a small house in our neighborhood that had been lying vacant. The rest of the money we put into a mutual fund that gave us safe and decent returns. The apartment got rented out really fast as it was in prime property, but I was a little puzzled as to why Mark bought the house. Sure, it was a good long-term investment, but right now, nobody would buy it. Instead of leaving it empty for a couple of years, I had an idea. Why not ask Brittany to move in? It would be a win-win, giving her her own space and also giving my parents some breathing room. I could tell that they were getting a little too frazzled by having Brittany staying with them, and the distance would help us all probably communicate better. So I floated the idea to my parents and asked Mark about it too. Mom and Dad agreed enthusiastically, and Mark also felt like it wouldn't be a big problem for us to manage. Although he was a little hesitant about it, I vouched for Brittany and told him that she would maintain the property really well. So with the green light from Hubby and my parents, I told Brittany about the plan. I knew she might feel a little put off if it felt like I was the brains behind it, so I spun the story as Mark wanting you to have the house for a while as it'll help you get back on your feet. She was ecstatic to hear this, and my sister was living down the street from us within a week. Right after she moved in, we went over with a bottle of wine for the housewarming and sat down and talked about the neighborhood and things to do. Brittany was being really, really chirpy and borderline flirty with Mark, and I was getting really uncomfortable with it. My husband was trying to laugh off her comments, but I could tell that he also felt weird. Eventually, I snapped after my sister suggestively asked Mark how she could pay him back. The tone was very seductive, and said, "Hey sis, maybe you've had a bit too much wine. You're kind of acting like a jerk right now." To this, she responded with, "Relax, OP, I won't come after your man. Besides, you never liked to share before, so why would you start now?" There was yet another unnecessary jibe about my past shittiness, and I realized what Mom and Dad had been living with all this time. Making an excuse, my husband and I left and decided to tread cautiously around Brittany, maybe regretting our decision a tiny bit. But the wildest part of this story happened just 4 days after this. I came home after work to see our screen door cut into, the front door wide open, and noises from indoors. Mark had texted me on my drive back that he'd be gaming in his room, so I knew he might not be aware of a break-in. I texted him and dropped a missed call before slowly stalking into the room. On the living room couch, I saw Brittany dressed in lace lingerie and very obviously drunk. Lowering my guard, I asked out of surprise, "What the frick are you doing here?" She jumped and looked back at me and slurred out, "I'm here to get what's mine. Where's Marky? I wanted to surprise him. I was not ready for this. And I saw Mark coming downstairs, gaming headphones around his neck, and with the most concerned look on his face. "Brittany, did you break in? And why?" But before he could ask, Brittany continued, "I wanted to surprise you. I mean, don't you want to get with me? I'm hotter, younger, and better. Like, you gave me a house for free. Surely there's something there. I would have preferred doing this without OP finding out, but divorce is an option." This is where I drew the line. I couldn't take this behavior. After how nice had been to her, this was the thanks I got. She didn't even know that I wanted her to have the house or not. Nope, just nope. I shoved Brittany out onto the street in her lingerie and asked her to pack up her things by the end of the week. I screamed, "You're just a terrible person. All we did is give to you, and you tried to be a home wrecker. Get out of here, you slut." After she left, I apologized profusely to Mark for asking him to give Brittany the house and proposed evicting her ASAP. He enthusiastically agreed. He felt very icked out by the situation. Brittany texted me the following morning after I told her she needed to move out, claiming that she was blackout drunk, and I shouldn't punish her for what she'd said and did. I didn't buy this and told her that I don't care. However, my parents are trying to convince me to just let her stay and work instead of establishing a strong boundary, as the other alternative is just her living with Mom and Dad again. I see their side of the story, and yes, Brittany was too drunk to know what she was doing, But am I right to not give second chances? Update 1. Brittany decided to not move back with mom and dad and is renting out an apartment with monthly pocket money being sent to her by my parents. Good riddance, I say. I also had it out with my parents about basically excusing Brittany's behavior and being selfish, and things are a little tense between us right now. As for the house, I think we'll just keep it as is and hope for a buyer, renter in the future. Update 2. I got a call from Brittany that started out with what seemed like a genuine apology. She admitted that she had been single for a while and Mark's generosity seemed like a sign to her, but then it went awry when she started talking about how mean I was to her and tried to make the whole conversation about that. I literally could not take it anymore and just hung up midway through. She complained to our parents about it, but they're taking my side this time. I am happy about it, and I'll talk to them and sort things out between us. Update 3. Things have a way of working out, it seems. Mark's office recently hired a guy from out of state, and he's moving here with his family. My husband offhandedly mentioned the property he has, and this guy is interested in living there. So I guess Mark's investment paid off earlier than we thought. NTA, I feel like Brittany thinks she's allowed to be trashy and mean to her family because her family was trashy and mean to her. That's just a bad way to deal with everything. From your post, it seems like you're self-aware and tried your best to make amends, and any sane person would draw the line where you did. NTA, but why would you want to give an entire house to your obviously troubled sister? I'm astounded by the fact that she went so far as to seduce Mark and literally breaking in. That's actually a crime and I would have sued her ass. Next story. I, 33, female, have been with my husband Joe, 42, male, for 2 years. Married for 3 months. Joe has a daughter, Eve, with his ex, Kim. I didn't fully move in until a few weeks before we married, so Kim left me alone, but now I'm getting an increasing number of calls about Eve. Kim is difficult. She is weirdly controlling, demanding, and overbearing, and seems to feel she has authority over me. She is the primary parent because her location is way more convenient for Eve, but Eve is choosing to spend more and more time at her father's. Kim will call to tell me she should be having spinach in her eggs in the morning, or that I need to enforce her bedtime or not let her bike the half-mile to the store or whatever. Eve is 17. She's incredibly academically successful, an avid performer, a shelter volunteer, and a dedicated dog owner. She's maintained the same close friend group since first grade. She's had a boyfriend since she was 15, and their relationship is adorable. She wakes up and exercises every day on her own. I mean, all this to say that she doesn't need me breathing down her neck. Eve blows me away with how responsible and awesome she is. Don't misunderstand, I have a great relationship with her, but I'm not going to step into this girl's life at this age and try to parent her, especially not in the way her mom wants. I'm not saying I would or do let her do anything she wants, but I'm not about to tell her what to eat or when to go to bed. That's between her and her dad. And Joe doesn't think it's necessary either. But his and Eve's approach to dealing with Kim's demands is simply to agree to her face and then disregard and do as they wish. I realize that it's easier, but I'm not going to play these games. So when Kim called me yet again to tell me that she didn't want Eve to go to her friend's party today because it might be dangerous, a pool party in her friend's backyard, and I wasn't allowed to drive her there, I told her that she was delusional. Eve was going. She's not a baby, and there was nothing dangerous about it. She started yelling about how I am a stepmom now, not a friend, and I needed to start acting like it. I told her that I was never going to be a stepmom. I'm just her dad's wife, and that's the relationship that's working for all of us. I told her to stop freaking calling me and to see a therapist. I stopped short of telling her that she's trashing her relationship with Eve by being so overbearing because it wasn't my place. But a part of me still thinks I should have said it because she needs to hear it. Kim showed up to yell at all of us in person, and now Joe is super annoyed with me. He says he knows it's not ideal, but their system of just keeping Kim out of the loop has worked for them, and it wasn't cool for me to take it upon myself to shake everything up. Eve agrees with her dad, and I feel bad that they're both upset with me. I understand this has been a dynamic that worked for them for a long time, but at the same time, it feels like an unhealthy way to handle this, and I don't want to play along. NTA. You needed to put your foot down with Kim, who was just looking to control the new person. Your husband just kind of left you hanging, honestly. So you did what you had to do. Now block Kim's number. If she wants to communicate, she can do it through her ex. You did well trying not to rock the boat, but sometimes the damn boat deserves it. Enjoy your new marriage bonus friendship with Eve. NTA, but you could have handled it better. I can understand that you were very frustrated by that point, though. Very simple response to her. You are not my spouse or my mother. I do not answer to you. Unless you are calling to tell me the house is literally on fire, don't call me. Call your ex. And then don't take her calls. And your husband needs to reiterate the same. Next story. My husband and I have been together for 5 years, married for 2, almost 3. We have a 2-year-old together. The ways the bills are split is I pay for mortgage, $750, trash, $20, water, $35, daycare, $460, and healthcare, $410. My husband picks up the rest. He picks up the rest because I make $1,100 a month. Healthcare gets deducted from payroll. And he makes double that as an engineer. I recently got approved for disability at $1,500 a month, and when I first got the letter, he told me he wasn't going to tell me how to spend my money. I told him I appreciated it, but was going to put some money towards the mortgage, about $200. Spend a couple of hundred on myself every month, and the rest go into savings, as I am finally now able to put together savings. Today, 2 months after that conversation, he came to me and told me he wanted to restructure the bill so that I would be paying more because he, for some reason, is going into the negative every month, so he wants to see about making it more even between us. I told him no, citing his earlier statement that he wouldn't ask me to do that, but now he's saying that he made a mistake and my income might need to be taken into account. And he possibly made a mistake with agreeing to that too soon. I told him absolutely not. He has been paying the bulk all this time and it was never a problem. I don't see why it should change. He called me unreasonable. AITA? Edit. A big question that probably is going to come up is why I feel this money should not be dictated is because 2 years ago he was in a rather bad wreck and got a $60,000 payout from it. I did not dictate how he spent that money. I didn't say that it needed to be spent on the house, so he spent it as he pleased, mainly on his hobbies. Another edit. The things that he contributes is the power bill, internet, car maintenance, gas, groceries, and things like that. The last time I saw the budget, 3 months ago, his total bills added up to between $1,700 to $1,900, depending on car maintenance and other non-static things like that. I was wondering why I kept getting this question, but I guess I didn't put it in the original post. I'm not receiving SSDI. I am receiving military disability, so that's why I'm still able to work despite being disabled. ESH for not being able to sort this out. Seriously, this is going to be my judgment from now on for couples who can't have adult discussions. You need to sit down and work out your budget with income and outgoings, then work out how much you have left. If you don't have money left, you need to reevaluate your outgoings. If there is money left, then you should be ending up with even amounts of fun money. Disability payments are different. They aren't supposed to cover fun money or even bills. They are for the extra cost of being disabled. So no, that shouldn't be going into your bills pot. It should be spent on the things you need because of your disability. ESH. It sounds like you all need to communicate way better. Start by figuring out why he's going into the red every month. Does he have too high a burden of bills? Or is he being irresponsible with his money? If he's spending wisely and still going into the red, it's only fair that you pitch in more now that your monthly income has more than doubled. Try to remember you're a team and come up with something that works for your whole family, rather than fixating on my money and his money. Stay tuned for more stories from Our Girl Relationships.